Welcome to the Family Business Audiocast on LinkedIn. I am R. Adam Smith, creator of this audiocast series. As an entrepreneur, investor, founder, investment banker, and board leader the last 25 years, I'm fortunate for my many experiences within the family firm industry. A warm thank you to our live audience on LinkedIn today and for those listening in the future. A brief comment on why I created this broadcast. Private companies are a passion of mine, having grown up in a family of entrepreneurs and having engaged for 2 decades in deals, strategic transformations, investments, and boards with an array of fascinating family enterprises, family firms, and family offices. I founded this series to offer a useful platform for listeners to hear from veterans, academics, and leaders in the vast family firm ecosystem. Whether you're a family business owner, building, running, or advising a family office, or just expanding your family office activities, I hope these conversations are useful and enlightening. And now it's time to turn our attention to our accomplished guests on today's episode. First, let me introduce a bit about our guest. Adriana, thank you for joining today. It's nice to have you, and Phil as well. Phil Strassler is the founder of Strassler LLC. He's a seasoned finance professional specializing in family office management and alternative investments. His leadership roles at Markham and also SJB Partners over the years underscored that expertise in private wealth. And over decades, his contributions have created some of the largest single-family offices and developing educational programs for them and their emerging leaders. Adriana Zaluka, founder of MyFotech, recently did an amazing event with Phil as well last week, boasts 15 years in family office management, particularly in North America, but also globally, specializing in technology. She's led initiatives across the world around the family office ecosystem, and she also holds a track record in the 10K at the University of Akron, which I like to point out as well. She's an academic contributor and has published papers as well in various academic journals. Let's kick it off today. Phil, great to have you here.
Great to be here today and see some friends on this call. So it's very nice.
Yeah, and Adriana too. Where are you today, Adriana?
Hi, Adam. Hi, everybody. It's nice to join you. I'm in Spain, on the south coast of Spain, and thank you for having me.
25 to 30 minutes. We're going to focus on the family business, but also look at it as an ecosystem and also look at excellence across the operations technology. Talk a bit about also MyFotech and the businesses and platforms that both Adriana and Phil are in. They've worked together over the years and are good friends together and also of mine. Why don't we talk about each of your paths getting into family business, family offices. Phil, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I retired as a partner at a firm called Markham in 2007. Before 2007, I spent most of my career working with wealthy families and hedge funds, investment partnerships, and the businesses that they had founded. So I spent a lot of time, I would say, on just giving tax advice and being counsel to those companies. In 2007, when I retired, just by fate, I wound up getting a fairly large assignment to move to the next direction, which was after you sold a business and grew a business, what do you do next? So I began working with single family offices on structure, education, how to go about making decisions. So it was a very easy transition. It's all about listening and applying lessons that I learned in the past.
Thank you. Adriana, how about you?
So I fell into the business of wealth management and family office quite unexpectedly, actually. I literally fell into it. So I was in London at the time, not long after graduating from my studies in Akron, Ohio, out of all places, where I was a foreign student, a student athlete in participating in 3 different varsity teams. So I was a little bit, I guess, burnt out, not ready for the typical MBA graduate career of going to a large corporation doing long hours. And so this opportunity came up in what became really, it was a young business that was a family business. And I took on a basic sales role, really, even though I'm not really a salesperson. But that was my beginning. And at the time, I didn't know anything about wealth management or family office, or it's quite a foreign landscape to me. But I honed in on the U.S. market, given my experience studying there, and eventually became a publisher of a U.S. focused family office publication.
Yeah, you did a great job there. I remember I've been reading that for a long time. It's well done. Phil, okay, so talk about some of your experiences. How does it help you understand the family dynamics? Like what goes on inside, around governance? Tell us a bit about those experiences, and then how does that bring you into your independent role with your relationships today?
Thank you, Adam. So I think what was the trigger for my focusing on family office dynamics? It was just dynamics themselves. I was a board member of a wealth management bank called Field Point Private Bank. And as a board member, for the first time, I was really involved in how decisions get made and how egos get in the way of making really good decisions. How to be independent, yet how to listen. And I found that experience helped me work with families to meet their strategic objectives. If a family wanted to stay together, I would be able to be a very good mediator, sit down at the table, listen to both of them or all of them, and reach some decisions together. It's never about imposing your will, it's about listening and trying to get to the underlying truth. So my assignments have all been with families that want to stay together, but really don't know how to do it.
Right. Well, the truth can come in various ways, right? It can be something that's discovered internally within an organization or brought externally in terms of education and at the board, right?
That's absolutely true. The true is true. So I would say that again, uh, knowing when to start a conversation, stop a conversation, be a confidant where you can be trusted. I think it's all about trust and also being able to understand where decisions will lead based on my experience and trying to share that experience and explain to them if you do this is what the likely outcome is. Many times the families I work with have never had the experiences that have had personally. And if we're all on the same page, those experiences will be valuable to them in terms of their own decisions, staying together as a family.
That's very important. We see a lot about culture and legacy and succession, generational plan, and the waterfall, both in terms of culture and incentives, compensation, governance. There's so much there. We've been covering that on some of our previous episodes. You cover it a lot as well in your own way, which is increasingly important given the size of the market, of course. Talking about truth and excellence, so let's move back to the MyFotech initiative. Adriana, tell us about the beginning of that initiative and mission. Where did that come from? And you just held a large conference. I think it was over 450 registrants. Tell us a bit about that and what is its goal in sharing those services to the client base.
Sure. Yes. Thank you for asking that. So the catalyst to this was really my experience talking to family office executives in who were charged with technology, with making technology decisions on different upgrades, streamlining the processes, making efficiencies. And so I was doing at the time different programs around it. And from my conversations, it was abundantly clear that this was a real pain. You have a lot of different solutions out there in the market. And so what I heard often was, how do I know what to choose or what to even compare? Like which solutions do I compare to each other? Because they're all doing different things. And how do I know what's what? And so I think that the family office industry is, if you can even call it an industry, is really developing and also embracing technology. It may be doing that slower than all the other industries, but it is really changing the nature of the operations. And I think in a very positive way. But for people who are working, who are making decisions about technology, which often actually are quite strategic decisions. Because if you think about investing into a a fully integrated system, you're not making a decision that's a 1-year decision. It's probably a 10-year decision. So in terms of your resource allocation, training of your staff, integration, rearranging all your procedures, etc. So it's a very important part of both private family office and multifamily office operations, and because of the underlying complexity of the families, of their investments, a lot of private investments. And so that's where my kind of interest for and impetus for MyFotech came from. I really wanted to create something that really focuses in that area, because I didn't think really I didn't see anything else out there that was doing that specifically. So yes, we've had our first conference the previous week. We were a young business, but our conference was a great success. Phil was involved in this, so we have an ongoing partnership. We want to go back to the mission.
Yeah.
Our mission is to help family offices identify their technology strategy and find the best solutions for their needs. And in that, we are very much aligned with Phil and his technology, the Larry Krauss Technology Institute. And so we partnered up on this earlier in the year and had a successful event.
Talking about operations and technology, there's a much higher level of offerings to the alternative investment universe: hedge funds, private equity, LPs, GPs, investment banks, even lawyers looking at Capital IQ, looking at PitchBook, Refinitiv, and so on, than the family office space. So in a way, I think it's important that family offices or even family-owned companies that have multiple holdings, right? They understand the importance of technology, operational, procedural efficiencies to protect that data and also to save costs. So it's great to see you bring attention to that. I'll note also for people that weren't able to attend the My Family Office Technology event, there'll be some replays and you guys can connect with Phil and Adriana on LinkedIn. Let's move over to family mission statements. So Phil, whether it's a family office or even a multifamily office or a private family firm that is not using a family office structure, talk a bit about mission statements and counsel around those, and give input into the client's search for excellence, let's say.
Sure. So that's a great question, Adam. So mission statements are critical in terms of understanding what direction family business, family office wants to go, the risk factors in keeping a family office alive. Unless you document how decisions are made and why decisions are made, it is incredibly difficult to convey the family legacy, the family business, the family secret, the success to the next generation, the generation after that, and the generation after that. And you have to start somewhere, starting with a mission statement, which is what is the goal of the family business in terms of the family, not only the business. What type of governance should you have? Should you have a separate board of advisors for family governance and another one for family business? All of those ideals are great theoretically, but the family has never thought about them, gone through them. They're busy with their business. And these mission statements transcend the sale of a business. The mission statement of a family that's successful in their business becomes more critical with we're selling the business.
I just wanted to pause there. That's tricky to realize, though, right? Because a mission in the moment can be very useful for any company to have their mission for their current ownership and their current leadership and their family values. But at some point, let's say they sell the business, they want to both create a mission, but also can evolve that mission statement to have longer term legacy after they sell, right?
That's correct. I find that the generation one has a vision of how they are treated after they sell the business, what decisions they make. They really can't impose those decisions on generation two. At some point in time, generation two is older, in their 50s, in their 60s. They've made their own decisions. They're working in a business themselves. G3 is the trickiest piece. Now you've divided up that wealth into more portions, but is there a continuity for the legacy of the founder in any way, shape, or form? Has there been funding provided to keep the family office going? All of those are critical in developing a mission statement. So many times I've seen Generation 3 say, you know something? I want to keep the family together. And all of a sudden you have a new vision and a new mission statement. So you're absolutely right, Adam.
Now, those mission statements sound a bit warm and fuzzy, but they really relate to the strategy of the firm, not just the emotional side of it. So I hear a lot about these mission statements from experts like you. We spoke about it with Christina Wing earlier, just the other week with Guillermo Salazar. Of course, Angela Robles talked about it in terms of the single family office and those mission statements flowing, continuing, evolving throughout the generations. Can you talk a bit more about how they are actually discussed and created? Is that at the owner level or at the board level? And are they really geared towards for profit, or are they also involving the nonprofit orientation?
So there probably hasn't been anything written down until there's an event. For sure, someone's getting older, someone passes away, a business is sold. It's really a strategic plan for the family that includes not only the investments, but other legacy specifics, whether it's art collecting, philanthropy, whatever the family really values, to have that move forward and be funded, it needs a strategic plan. And many of the families I come in contact with, there's no real strategic plan. There's a designation as who the successor in the business is going to be. And oftentimes, the family members that are not the successors move away. So they don't become part of the family business. They don't go on the advisory board. They're not included. The idea to be successful, to include the individuals that want to be part of the plan and have the family stay together and understand the direction going in and how they're going to get there. Consultants and experts that have lived this before are the other people to talk to. And on my projects, specifically, as I develop a mission statement and a strategic plan, I think if I'm talking to the client when it's all finished, I've been successful.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you. Thank you. Adriana, shifting over to generational transitions and succession planning and how to guide the values for the decision making, which also can include the focus on the organizational structure of the company, right? And what they do with their spending on technology, operations, financial controls, not just the mission side. Talk a bit about that from your perspective.
Yes, well, technology can come in to play in many different ways. And you have now, for example, various systems that can really help to facilitate the conversation and communication in the family between the various family members, sometimes scattered across the world. And so that's an important part of it. Also, I think there's a big role technology can play in sharing information and having control over what is shared with whom and when, to make sure that you're having that you have as much transparency as you can, but at the same time, sometimes I guess it's not wise to overshare. So I don't know if that's answers your question, but these are some of the thoughts that come to mind on that point and how they can play a role in
Right.
in a family generational dynamics and transfer. So
Right. Well, Phil, you talked on the program and previously in some of your writing, you talk about that. You talk about the collaboration within the family firm. Again, it can be a family office or just a family firm. And I've seen your writings in the past talking about long-term success. So maybe both of you can just spend a couple minutes to the audience talking about what really are those drivers for long-term success between, let's say, human capital. Our friend Angelo insists that human capital is the most important, and other people insist on legacy and passion and mission. And then others talk about more, scalability.
I'll start with that. So ultimately, having everyone understand through the mission statement what their role is and developing a schedule of meetings, education, individuals taking their skills which to me is really, that is the investment that the family has to make, and the individuals, their expertise, harnessing those to go forward. As families get larger, the wealth shrinks. It's hard to keep up with the rate of return as you have children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, funding them in their next great business and giving them the right resources to grow is really what, to me, what success is. It's not about growing a business, selling a business. It's what comes next. And any strategic plan and mission is focused on what comes next, not only what we have in front of us. Adriana?
Yes, thanks, Phil. On family business experience, I can only speak. I'm not an expert or an advisor. I can only speak from my own experience, and I think that it is it is very important when combining business and family to have a structure in place, because when I eventually separated from a family business, it was a quite difficult transition, I think, for everybody involved. And so I think in hindsight, it would have really helped to have someone actually like Phil, like to end a protocol, I think, from the beginning to foresee, because family dynamics, I think one thing that's constant is that they change. I think it's something that evolves with time. That's why the
Right.
family constitutions have to evolve with time, and our needs change, our relationships change, what we need from each other changes, and I think to keep the communication going is really key, and also to plan ahead, to foresee maybe some difficulties and difficult situations, how are you going to deal with them, because if things go wrong, I think the impact will be on the family, and it can be as destructive as to be almost impossible to repair. So that's where I would comment on this.
Yeah, certainly more difficult to make human capital changes in a family owned company than a typical corporate company from a hiring fire perspective, that's for sure. Maybe one more comment back on the family charters and family mission statements. Phil, what is the difference between a family charter and a family mission statement? And how are those different than just doing your best every day and just trying to grow the business and make money?
No, I think that foremost, okay, the charter itself, to me, sets the rules of the game. In other words, this is how we're going to make decisions. Clearly, who's going to be at the table making those decisions? One issue that we've spoken over the years, Adam, is leadership. To have a charter, you need a leader that is going to basically understand where the direction of the family and where does that individual get the leadership skills. Many times it's within the business itself. But what if it's a G3? Who's going to take that? Who's going to take responsibility for the family when they sold the business in terms of making investment decisions? There's a lot to learn. Leadership will move them in the right direction. The mission statement is more of a strategic plan. After the charter is done and saying, here's the rules, here's how decisions are going to be made, then you have a mission statement, which is, this is what's important to us, and this is what our roles are in society.
Well, society for a family office or a billionaire or large family firm, even a multifamily office, increasingly involves philanthropy and a core cause or multiple causes. And of course, having the entire family or the different generations get on board with philanthropy. Just talk a bit about how that's going in the family office ecosystem. Is philanthropy growing exponentially, or is it more of a generational mindset? And if and how do the generations agree on how generous to be in the short term and also the long term in terms of the trust structures?
Um, I would say that in my experience, the first generation that has sold a business or has operated a business successfully oftentimes has not been transparent. And the family, next generations, do not understand the largesse. They don't understand the contributions, where they've given money, what's important to them. the funding as well as the volunteerism. In other words, what's the entire picture for that G1 person? What did they value? And that's where it starts. There has to be a method to convey this is what we need to do for the world, for our community, and this is what we've done. Without that being transparent, it's very hard for generations after that to follow the same path. And oftentimes the generation one says, like, why aren't they doing that? Or they want to put handcuffs and here's what you should do. It's something that should be a regular part of every strategy, part of a mission statement, if the family has important growth in the philanthropic area. I see also that generations today have different values, different things that are important to them. The older generation should give them the opportunity to create their own path, and often that's not done.
Oh, I love that statement. We can cover that in another episode, perhaps, Phil, in terms of how to discuss and craft and sustain a legacy and mission across the generations. And we'll be having other episodes talking about that issue within an MFO capacity versus an SFO capacity. So perhaps we can talk more about that. We'll be wrapping up soon here. So I'd love to hear from each of you. Who inspires you in the world of family offices? Maybe there's an entrepreneur that you admire, or a company that's gone through some changes and growth and succession, evolution over time. Maybe Adriana, start with you.
Yes. So I am a big lover of nature. I like the natural environment. And so some of the businesses that inspire me, I have actually come across in England, living there. It was neighbors, you could call them. So there was, and I'll give a specific example. It's actually a family owned, it's a family of landowners. They own this farm called the Nep Estate. And it has been a high intensity farming business for many years. But Sir Charles Burrell is his name. He decided to basically turn it into a wildlife regeneration project to bring back the diversity of species. And so he did that, I think, about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago now, leveraging some new research on free roaming herbivores and how they can regenerate the land. And so they've seen amazing results, and and they actually make a profit from this as well, I think, or certainly making revenue from organic meat and travel wildlife tourism in there. But they've been able to bring back some species that were basically close to extinct, or certainly haven't been in the area for years or even decades. So that's where I find, and I could give you more examples, but
Thank you.
that's just one.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Patagonia story recently, of that talk about a company that's does really well, but also does well by the world and nature. How about you, Phil?
So I would say that my admiration is for a family office that I've been working with for probably over 15 years now. 15 years ago, this individual and his wife, they had three daughters. Yeah. And over that period of time, he has built a family office which includes each of the daughters, very specific assignments, but a sophisticated structure with advisory committees and operating committees, all for one purpose. When he's no longer able to or wants to be in charge, he's got a system in place and people in place that are trusted so that his daughters could carry on the business, each one with their own specific role, almost, I would say, corporate, with performance reviews, with employees, with caring about employees. So he's turned his investment office into what I consider to be a business, treats it like a business. I have great admiration for the individuals that can go and have something successful and create something that will live past their death.
Right. Fantastic. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. It's important that I think the industry is not just focused on the family office as a business, as a client, but also keeps in mind their mission. We talked about that, their legacy, and that ultimately these are real people and families. They're not just a transaction or a corporate animal. So it's great to hear that both of you are very attentive to those elements of these organizations from a humanist and a personal perspective. So thank you for that. It's been great to have you on today, Phil and Adriana. Any final words for the audience as we wrap up?
I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I hope we do it again. I wish everyone a great Thanksgiving holiday with their family. And Adriana, it's great to be a partner of yours.
Yes, I would also like to thank you, Adam, for the opportunity. Thank you, Phil, and I enjoyed and wishing everyone a happy holiday. In Spain, we don't celebrate, but I'll certainly take a day off to celebrate with you.
Thank you. Well, you have the siesta, which is nice. We don't have that often.
Yes, and lots of other holidays as well.
Exactly. You can reach Phil and Adriana on LinkedIn, and you can also reach Phil at his personal business, and then Adriana at MyFotech as well. This is R. Adam Smith signing off. Please stay tuned for the next episode of the Family Business Audiocast on LinkedIn.